to have been descendants of Kittime. History. Macedonia attained prominence under the rule of Philip II. He was able to consolidate Macedonia and neighboring regions, and as a result of his victory in the Battle of Chaeronea 338 BCE, Macedonia emerged as supreme in relation to the majority of the Greek states. Subsequent to Philip's assassination, his son Alexander the Great ascended the throne. 2 years later, Alexander commenced his extensive campaign of conquest. By the time of his death at Babylon 323 BCE, Alexander, through his military victories, had built up an empire that extended as far as India and included Mesopotamia, Syria, Palestine, Egypt, Asia Minor, Thrace, Macedonia, and Greece. See Dar 2. 31-33, 39. 7. 6. 8. 1-7, 20, 21. Alexander number 1. Beasts, symbolic. Image. When the empire was divided following Alexander's death, Antipater, who has been the regent of Macedonia while Alexander was warring in the east, retained his position. Before his death, Antipater entrusted the regency to Polyperchon instead of to his own son Cassander. Then followed Otextoiacute Longo, Mecca 289 CE. It was joined with Agai, to the S, and Mosia, to the N, to form an imperial province under the legate of Mosia. However, in 44 CE Macedonia again became a senatorial province under the jurisdiction of a Roman governor. See Greece, Greeks. Paul's ministry. Macedonia was the first area in Europe to be visited by the Apostle Paul on his second missionary journey. While at Troas in NW Asia Minor, Paul had a vision. A certain Macedonian man was standing and entreating him and saying, "Step over into Macedonia and help us." Acts 16. 8, 9. Paul responded to that vision and, with Luke, Timothy, and Silas if not also other companions, left for Macedonia. After arriving at Neapolis, the port of Philippi in any Macedonia, Paul went to Philippi and there declared the good news. Acts 16. 11-40. Luke, it appears, remained at Philippi when Paul, Silas, and Timothy journeyed through the Macedonian cities of Amphipolis about 50 km 30 MWSW of Philippi and Apollonia about 35 km 22 m of Amphipolis. Next Paul witnessed in the Macedonian cities of Thessalonica about 45 km 28 MWNW of Apollonia and Berea about 65 km 40 MWSW of Thessalonica respectively. Acts 17. 1-12. On account of threatened mob violence at Berea, Paul was forced to depart from Macedonia. But he left Silas and Timothy at Berea so that they might care for the new group of believers there. Silas and Timothy were to join him later. Acts 17. 13-15. Paul, concerned about the welfare of the newly formed congregation at Thessalonica, sent Timothy to encourage the brothers there. 1-3. 1. 2. Perhaps Timothy joined Paul at Athens, in Achaia, and then was sent back to Thessalonica. But it seems more likely that Paul notified him at Berea to make the trip to Thessalonica. The good report Timothy brought, upon returning, prompted Paul to write his first letter to the Thessalonians 1-3. 6. Acts 18. 5. His second letter to the Thessalonians followed not long thereafter. During the course of his third missionary tour, Paul made plans to return to Macedonia. 1 Co 16. 5-8. 2 Co 1. 15, 16. Although Paul remained a while longer at Ephesus, he sent Timothy and Erastus to Macedonia in advance. Act 19. 21, 22. It was after this that the Ephesian silversmith Demetrius stirred up a riot against Paul. The city was thrown into confusion, and as the Ephesians rushed into the theatre, they seized and took along Jason and Aristarchus, Macedonians, travelling companions of Paul. Act 19. 23-29. After the uproar subsided, Paul set out for Macedonia. Act 20. 1. He apparently stopped at Troas. There he was disappointed at not meeting Titus, who had been sent to Corinth, in Achaia, to assist in the collection for the holy ones in Judea. 2 Co 2. 12, 13. Paul then proceeded to Macedonia, where he was joined by Titus and received word about the way the Corinthians had reacted to the apostles' first letter. 2:7. 5-7. Subsequently Paul wrote his second letter to the Corinthians and later went south to Greece. He had intended to sail from Greece to Syria, but a plot against him by the Jews caused him to change his plans and to return to Macedonia instead. Act 20. 2-3. His traveling companions included 3 Macedonians, Sopater, Aristarchus, and Secundus. Act 20. 4. Although poor themselves, the Macedonian Christians were very generous. They expended themselves beyond their actual ability in making contributions for the needy brothers in Judea. 2:8. 1-7. Compare 15. 26, 27. 2:9. 1-7. Especially were the Philippines outstanding in supporting Paul's ministry. 2:11. 8, 9. php 4. 15-17. Even while the apostle was imprisoned at Rome for the first time,